Alrighty, here we go. After much ado of like holidays and other things getting in the way, mainly the event. Like it was just so much stuff happening at once. The 6 year anniversary. You also had the uh, PTB of the perk stuff there, and also, you know, the fourth page of the tome itself being all lumped in into one. We did get the tome done, obviously. That's why we're here, as well as the event one. And yeah, here we go. We're gonna let it rip here. Once again, tome 11. Everybody, enjoy. Alrighty. Let me bring the volume back up. And here we are. Ta-da! Just like that. Just a seamless transition there. No problem whatsoever. All good. All good. Okay. Alright, here we go. We'll let the guy do its thing, and let's see what we get here.
A gust of wind tussles the leaves in the forest.
New narrator.
Charlotte is heading west, as far from the temple as possible.
Big thumbs up on that.
If she gathers some supplies, perhaps she could reach the coast. Her mother once told her about a dream she had of sailing west across the ocean, to another world. Perhaps Charlotte could leave this hateful place behind and find a new home. A branch cracks behind her. She turns around, instinctively holding Victor closer to her chest. Is someone following them? She hurries onward, reaching a stony bridge leading to a village on a mossy hill.
Excuse me.
It is risky to stop the village, but she needs supplies. Charlotte places Victor in the scarf wrapped around her torso. He is too weak to move, too weak to speak. What the Black Cloaks did to him in the temple changed him.
Okay, I don't like that
To
nickname.
build his strength back, she needs to get some food and medicine. Walking down the village's narrow streets, she reaches the market. Her mother taught her how to get what she needed from a vendor's stall. Distract them and only take what you can carry. Leave before you are noticed. Better to be safe than captured. She spots a vendor selling herbs and
Yeah, that's the
ointments.
same.
Medicine is a priority. Charlotte pulls her hood over her face and approaches the stall slowly. Then she waits for an opportunity. When the vendor turns to address another customer, she extends her arm and snatches a few vials. Then she spots a pile of fruit at the back of the stall. Risky, but the sweet smell of ripe apples is enchanting. She glances at the vendor, who is arguing over prices. She crouches and slowly sneaks past him. When she reaches for the basket of fruit, she sees what lies under it. Cured cheese. She grabs a large piece and shoves it in her bag with a few apples. Then she crouches under the stall and exits the opposite way she came in, leaving the vendor behind.
Uh-oh.
Walking hurriedly, she heads down the street where beggars are kindling rubbish. Despite the stink, the warmth of the flames feels good. Suddenly, a heavy hand falls on her shoulder. A towering man with a bow in his hand is staring down at her. He smiles menacingly. Hunters were talking about you. You're gonna make me a rich man. Charlotte kicks the burning pile of garbage and embers spill on the ground, igniting a puddle of wine. Panic spreads faster than
Set the
flames
market on
as several
fire.
villagers push the beggars who are trying to stamp out the fire. Amid the commotion, Charlotte darts off, but the menacing villager snatches her bag, bringing her to a full stop. Panicking, she tears the strap of her bag and lets its contents spill onto the ground. Then she runs at full speed until she reaches the stony bridge. Looking over her shoulder, she sees black smoke billowing from the village. Her stomach churns. She once saw a face licked by flames before, cheeks charred like crisp leaves. She bites her tongue, trying to repress the memory. She cannot slow down. The villagers could be on her chase. She heads into the woods, running until she could no longer smell smoke in the air.
So it starts off with Victor. If I go back here for a second. Yeah, Victor seems ill. Which I'm guessing, you know, they're going to describe Victor as a child, but, you know, you're not supposed to call him a child because reasons. But I'm guessing Victor somehow turns into the gremlin that he is here in the game. And obviously the black cloaks. Couldn't come up with a name for them? So she basically steals food and medicine to save Victor, I assume. And already, presumably, this is already off to a start where, you know, you're going to feel empathy for the killers here. You know, that's kind of like a critique with these. I'll get to the next part here. Just hang on. Excuse me. Also, I was choking on my spicy Mountain Dew here. The flaming hot Mountain Dew. But, I'm guessing this is going to set up for an empathy path for the twins here, which, I mean, I get, but, like, man, there's so many killer stories that have, like, an empathetic background rather than, oh, these people are just dicks. Kind of like with Clown and Doctor, who are the only two that I can come up with off the top of my head that, well, and the Trickster. 3. So 3 right there. That end up being, like, people you really shouldn't admire or like, but anyway.
Charlotte reaches a muddy patch in the woods. Going further this way would leave a trail. Right now, she could not risk it. One of the villagers could be tracking them. The river is the safer route, since it would leave no trail behind. She steps into the icy water, her oversized boots splashing around. In seconds, her clothes are drenched. When the wind howls, her freezing flesh is set ablaze. After several hours of trekking in ice-cold water, she reaches the bottom of a colossal waterfall, the end of the road. A plateau lies above, midway between the river and the top of the waterfall. It would make for a difficult climb, but it is possible. If she reaches this plateau, the view would allow her to spot any villager on her trail. She could sleep soundly for the first time in weeks. Looking down at Victor wrapped in her scarf, she sees how pale he looks.
Jesus.
They both need their rest.
She's been doing this while
Charlotte
holding
examines
Victor this
the
entire
rock wall
time.
surrounding the waterfall, looking for holds and grips in the boulder's shapes. Then she tightens her scarf around Victor to keep him in place. She reaches the cliff and grabs the rock wall. 1 foot up, then another. Her arms tire first. She lands her right foot on a protuberant boulder and shifts her weight to relax her muscles.
That's a good word,
But her
protuberant.
heel slides out of her oversized boot. Ignoring her aching arms, she holds onto the cliff, pushing her foot hard against the boulder to force the boot back on.
Come on, Charlotte.
But the boulder shifts under the pressure and comes loose.
Uh-oh.
Suddenly, there is nothing but air under her right foot. The boulder tumbles down the cliff along with her boot, plunging into the river. Charlotte's arms are shaking and she cannot move. Her fingers are slipping away one by one. Soon she will tumble down just like that boulder and plummet to her death. Her breathing becomes ragged. Is this the end? She promised Victor she would save him, that one day they would be free. Is this the best she could do? A brutal plunge to their death? No, she promised him. She would save him, like she saved Mama. Charlotte closes her prickling eyes. Her last finger is slipping.
Uh-oh. I mean, as foolish as it is, plunging into a waterfall with, like, rocks down below is a pretty gnarly way to go out. Again, foolish, but gnarly.
Charlotte feels something cold against her shoulder. She opens her eyes and sees Victor's hand there. That is their signal. He would tap her shoulder when he needed something. She would hold his hand when she needed his attention. But he is too weak to move. Did he change position when the boulder slipped from under her? Unless he is afraid, like her. Maybe he is begging her to save him. Charlotte inhales deeply, ignoring her burning arms. She looks up and sees another large boulder to her right, a bit higher. If she lunges, she could reach it. But one false move and she would land in the river, her head smashed on rocks. Her heart is beating wildly, but she is no longer paralyzed. Victor needs her, and she would do anything to save him. Digging her nails into the rock wall, Charlotte pulls with all her might and jumps. As she lunges into the air, her heart drops. Then her right foot lands on the higher boulder, which instantly shifts from under her. Terrified, she realizes that she is falling, slowly. Frantically grasping at the wall, she sways her arms, ignoring the sharp rocks tearing and burning her flesh. She closes her eyes as she slides down, but her right arm finds a grip, bringing her fall to a stop. As she holds on, her right foot lands on something solid, and she carefully shifts her weight on it. Her ears are ringing wildly, and her whole body is pressed against the jagged edge of the cliff. She looks over her shoulder at Victor. He is cocooned in her scarf, safely. Gritting her teeth, Charlotte looks up. The edge of the plateau is about a toise high. She can do this. Charlotte finds a grip for her left arm. Then she pulls, one foot up, then another. On and on for what seems like an eternity. All the way up until she heaves herself over the edge of the plateau, safe.
Hopefully with all the supplies intact. Yeah, cool. Charlotte's kind of a badass, a strong badass. Strong rock climbing figure. Yeah, keep going.
Charlotte collapses on the plateau. For a moment during the climb, she thought it was over. The fear of death is nothing to be ashamed of. But something else happened. For a second, she felt a fleeting relief when contemplating death. And that worries her more than the witch hunters, more than the black cloaks. Because it means that she betrayed Victor. For a moment, she abandoned him.
No,
How could she be so cowardly and selfish? Charlotte presses her hand over his cheek. Ice cold. Isn't he already gone? No, she could not accept that. Losing him would be like laying down in a grave and waiting for soil to smother her. He is her, and she is him. They are one. She caresses his pale cheek. I promise you that one day I will take you far away from here, and we will be safe forever. A dark fog coils at her feet as her eyelids become heavy. Then her eyes close.
Sounds like they're getting sucked into the DBD universe here.
Charlotte opens her eyes. She sits up slowly. She must have fainted. Instead of looking at the view, she looks down at Victor, who seems asleep. Is he? No. Charlotte could see some color on his cheeks. He will get better. Getting back on her feet, she examines her surroundings. A forest of evergreen trees stands ahead, and behind her, she gasps at the view. Tall pines spread west to the shoreline, where dark waves roll against a long bobbing wharf. A harbor of ships heading west. To admire the ocean view, Charlotte sits on a bed of soft branches. The sun is setting, spilling blood into the sky. She loosens her scarf, unveiling Victor's face so he can see the boats. She reaches for his hand and grabs it, ice cold and limp. Charlotte stifles a sob. Everything is fine. Victor is just weakened by their journey. He is still here with her. Tonight they will rest, and he will get better.
I don't know about that.
Below, large ships are sailing toward the misty horizon, heading further west. They remind her of her mother's dream. When the Black Cloaks were doing their worst to her, she held on to her mother's words. Charlotte never honestly believed in her mother's dream of sailing west. It was just a beautiful escape. But now it is time to believe. A new dream for a new life. Charlotte takes off her hat and wraps it around Victor's hands. Do you know what lies beyond the horizon? Mama told me once. She dreamt of that place just before she fell sick. She said that there is another world across the ocean. A place with clean rivers and sweet syrup dripping from the trees.
Oh, we're going to Canada.
A whole other world for us to be free. Do you see that big ship below? No answer. Maybe Victor is afraid of dreaming aloud. Some dreams are too delicate to be spoken, but not hers. Charlotte brushes off a drop of rain from Victor's pale brow. Everything will be all right, Victor. Just imagine the voyage with me. One day, we will sail far away from here. We would sleep in a bed made of ropes suspended in the air. Each rolling wave would swing our bed from side to side, lulling us to sleep. After a few weeks, we'd reach land.
Hammocks do that, but
Then we would find a little house by a creek. In the morning, we would work in a field of golden crops. Each day, we'd drink the sun and eat the moon, and no storm would hit us. No men would burn us. No monsters would hurt us.
Okay, all right.
We would live together, free. Our lives would be so normal, you would miss our adventures. Maybe one day you'll even miss this view. I promise you, one day we will be free. We'll find a place where we belong. All three of us.
3?
Her voice breaks. No, they could never be all three again.
Oh.
Their mother is gone.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, thank you for
Charlotte looks down at Victor. He is so weak that she could barely see his chest rise. No, he is just sick. He needs to rest. She cannot pay her doubts any attention. If she does, she would be the next one to die. And then all three of them would be lost. Charlotte closes her eyes. She can almost feel the lush leaves brushing against her legs as she runs through an open field. Victor is laughing in her arms. They are far away from here.
Getting a little bleak.
Cold winds howl against the cliff like hungry beasts. A songbird wakes Charlotte. She opens her eyes feeling every inch of her body protesting in pain. Her throat feels coated in sand. Her temples throb. She feels sick. She looks down at Victor, who got paler overnight. Her fingers curl into a fist. How is she supposed to take care of her brother when her own mother failed? Charlotte feels so lost without her. Looking up, she spots the singing bird, a little sparrow. Images flash through her mind, soft feathers, sharp claws, and a delicate neck in her hands. Blood dripping from her brow as black cloaks beat her, until she wrapped her hands around the sparrow's neck and twisted.
Okay, alright.
They forced her to do monstrous things. But she is no monster. Yet she was treated as one. And why? Because Victor is part of her, and she is part of him. They are one, united by blood and bone. They cry double the tears when hurt. They laugh twice over when glad. And even in their darkest moments, they are never alone. Side by side, forever. Who else could say the same? And yet they pay a heavy price for this gift. They are of one blood and bone. If one perishes, what remains?
So she's getting a little lost in the sauce here because Victor's not healing up here. Yeah. Why'd she kill a bird though? I don't get that. That's kind of fucked up. Huh. Yeah, usually, I don't know, twins have, like, a supernatural bond. Like, one can feel the other's, like, emotions and things like that, and whatnot, so I'm kind of invested with this here so far. But I'd like to know what happened to Victor to make him feel ill. And all this stuff with, like, the quote-unquote black cloaks and why they're, like, upset with them besides the fact that they're twins. Maybe it'll all get answered. Let's see. Also, props to the new narrator, by the way. I really like her. Nothing against the old guy. He was alright. A little bit dry at the start when we first started doing these, and then they kind of got into their groove, so to speak. But this is a change of pace. I like the new lady reader here, narrator.
The night sky is clear and speckled with stars.
She's good.
Charlotte feels too sick to move.
Uh-oh.
Victor must feel worse. Or does he? A low, feral growl echoes from the woods. Charlotte can barely see ahead, but the hairs on her neck rise. Something in the dark watches her. She grabs Victor's hand. Stay calm. Holding a large branch in her trembling hands, she walks towards the noise. Wolves are known to hunt far from villages. The further she travels, the higher the risks of running into one. While scanning the darkness, she spots a crimson trail on the glittering snow. Further ahead, a large wolf is lying in the snow, its gray fur marred with blood. An arrow is planted in its neck.
Aww.
Hunters must have left it to die. The wolf
Charlotte's just
growls
gonna finish
as
the
its
job,
dark
just
eyes
snap its
land on
neck.
her, but seems too weak to move. Then she hears a high-pitched cry. A little white cub hides under the
Aw.
wolf's leg. A dying wolf and its wailing baby striving to survive.
Oh no.
Charlotte knows what she must do, and she hates herself for it. She leans over and grabs the tiny pup into her hands. The pup snaps at her fingers, but its teeth are too tiny to cause any real pain. Howling, the wolf struggles to get back on its feet, but its legs buckle under its weight and crash into the snow.
Oh, there's snow now?
Charlotte ignores the dying wolf's whimpers and digs a hole in the snow too deep for the pup to climb out of. When Charlotte's
that is
own mother
cruel.
screamed in agony, she wished someone would have ended her suffering. Charlotte approaches the pup's mother with trembling hands. The wolf growls as she grabs the arrow. In one swift motion, she pulls it out. The wolf howls in anguish and collapses. The cub cries in response, frantically digging itself out of the snow. Charlotte waves her branch at the pup and screams. "Run! Run!" The pup growls weakly, then darts off into the night. Charlotte's vision blurs as tears mingle with the blood splattered across her face. Is she any better than these hunters? The wolf was too far gone. Such unnecessary pain was cruel. And the hunters would have trapped its pup if it remained close. A life of captivity with its mother's killers. No, Charlotte did them both a mercy. She knows what it is like to be captured by such monsters.
I thought she was just gonna fucking bury the pup alive in like a shallow grave or something like that. That is fucked. Holy moly. Wow.
Charlotte's tears would not stop.
Jeez.
Her remorse for killing the wolf triggered a growing tightness in her chest. 2 years ago, she would never have been able to kill another being. And yet, is it humane to watch an innocent being suffer cruelly to death? She would have preferred walking
Welcome
away,
to DBD.
but she knows better. Her mother's suffering taught her better. When her mother was captured by witch hunters, Charlotte convinced herself that there was nothing she could do. But it was not entirely true. The hunters slept in a wooden shed behind the church near the woods. The shed was so old and dry, a spark could have sent it blazing. And yet she did nothing but wait for the trial. Then she had to watch her own mother burn to death. There had been other missed opportunities to prevent the suffering of innocents. Every time her mother's voice held her back. Let no one pull you so low as to hate them. In the end, you will hate yourself most for it. But Maman is gone now. Charlotte watched the flames melt her face as she cried out in agony.
Oh.
Now Victor is all she has left. She looks down at him. His cheeks have a bluish hue.
Okay, well, if they're out in the
Maybe he
cold,
is past the point of no return,
yeah, that's probably like hypothermia setting in.
isn't she? No, he will get better. They are one, united by blood and bone. He would never leave her behind.
I don't know about that. Sounds like he's on his way. He's got 1 foot out the door already. Yeah, I didn't realize that they're in the cold, so that makes a little bit more sense why, you know. I thought that it was like, you know, just normal weather, but yeah, anyway.
A loud noise wakes Charlotte at dawn. A pile of ashes lies at her feet, the fire long gone. Something cracks behind her. A tall man emerges from the tree line. She remembers him, the villager who tore out her bag at the market. He raises his arm, revealing his bow.
Uh-oh.
Charlotte's heart drops as she sees him draw.
Didn't say anything
Stumbling
about
to
him
her
taking
feet, she darts off into the
the
woods.
bag.
As arrows land beside her, she keeps her eyes fixed on the ground to avoid protuberant roots.
Yeah, protuberant.
Panicking, she rushes her step and her left foot lands on a stump, twisting her ankle awkwardly. She tumbles down to the ground. An arrow lands next to her face, slicing her cheek.
Ooh.
Charlotte stifles a scream as she gets back on her feet. Her ankle is throbbing painfully. Then something sharp stabs her leg. and everything slows down.
Then she took an arrow to the knee.
Falling to her knees, she looks down and sees an arrow planted in her calf.
Ouch.
A jolt of electricity courses through her. She screams in agony. Panting, she looks down at Victor. His eyes are blank, as if ready for death. She promised him.
Uh-oh. It's not looking good here.
Charlotte grits her teeth and takes a step forward, dragging her injured leg. The pain is torturous, but she ignores it. Victor needs her. Looking up, she sees a large oak tree perched over a small hill. She could hide there. Every step uphill is an agonizing cycle of tearing and burning.
Jesus.
She bites her tongue to stifle her cries, tasting blood. Once at the top, she hides behind the oak tree to catch her breath. But her vision blurs, and she collapses into a pile of dead leaves. The tip of the arrow dug underneath her skin, tearing up her tissues. She presses her palm against her burning wound. So much blood. Her ears are ringing. Nowhere to run. No escape. Sailing to the new world is an impossible dream. A branch cracks behind her. Charlotte caresses Victor's cheek. They are one, united by blood and bone. He is her and she is him. If one perishes, what remains? Groaning in pain, she sits up slowly. Nothing will tear them apart. Not even death. They are side by side forever.
I bet this is gonna be an awesome cutscene of like, well, maybe not awesome is the right word, but like Charlotte getting like, you know, hit with the fucking arrow here, or maybe we see how they wind up in the fog. Let's see. Let's take a look. Yo! She straight up bit the dude's neck like a vampire. As soon as that blood hit Victor, she kicked it into overdrive, man. Holy shit. And she kept the knife, too. Yo, alright, that was way better than what I was expecting. That's pretty awesome. You know, what? I was just thinking, when we got to like page 5 or 6, I think one of the cool, I don't know if they'll be able to ever pull this off, but I think it would be, on top of the cutscene, I think it would be kind of neat to have like a playable, like cinematic of some sort. Like it would just be like, you know, you'd be playing as the person involved, and then you would have to like go up and like interact with like certain elements, kind of like that right there. But I don't know if they would execute it well enough to do it justice. And with how buggy the game is, I mean, I think with the animations and the cartoon, well, not cartoon, the animated stylings is way better, I think. But that one was pretty good. She just straight up fucking bit the dude's neck. Wow. Alright, next one is David, who has his second appearance in the archives here. Presumably this is going to be the him coming out of the closet, if you will, so to speak. So let's see how this is gonna entail that.
The old pub
Oh,
erupts
back
in
to the
drunken
old
screams and
announcer, okay.
laughter as patrons drink ale, play darts, and watch football on the flat-screen television above the bar. David sits alone on a hard wooden stool at the bar. He can already see Jasmine in his mind's eye. Blonde hair, blue eyes, short skirt, walking out of her apartment with wafts of wild vanilla and a
Let's
few
go.
fun quips, like all those black and white films his mother used to watch alone in the kitchen. She's everything like the movies,
Casablanca.
everything his father admires in a woman, and more. And she's certainly a perfect date for the old man's retirement party in the coming days, sure to turn heads and make him proud. David gulps his evening ale, winces at the bitterness, and thumps the pint against the metal countertop, still feeling the tightness around his neck and shoulders. He figures he needs a little more social lubricant to make this first date go off
I beg your
without a
pardon?
hitch. The last thing he wants is to screw things up before the party. David scans the bar
calls it
and
social
gestures to
lubricant,
his
though?
old friend Rick. He slides his empty glass, nods for a refill, and suddenly feels a sharp pain at his left side. Rick returns with a foamy golden pint dripping on the sides as David snatches it from him, takes a sip, and winces. Tastes bitter, and he knows it ain't supposed to be this bitter.
Uh-oh.
He waves Rick
Somebody
over
forgot to
and
cycle
leans
the
forward.
kegs.
This shit is killing my insides, and it tastes like someone farted in a bathtub of donkey piss. You pulling this shit out of an engine? Or is it real? That's real, Dave. As real as it gets. It tastes like poison. Well, why don't you stop punishing yourself? David's left side pulls again. He struggles to remember if the appendix is on the left side or the right side. He isn't sure. Doesn't matter. Everything hurts in his stomach and chest, and he figures he's better off with a ruptured appendix anyway. Some poisons are good for you.
No.
Rick shakes his head in disagreement. I take it easy anyway, unless you want to be a total shit with what's-her-name. Jasmine. A drunk fan approaches David. Look
Sounds
here,
like that bar needs,
as I
John
live
Taffer.
and breathe, David fucking King. Why not come and have a seat with us? Ignoring him,
David got
looks up at
served
the
rancid
football
beer.
match.
They need turbo tap.
Just want to be alone right now. Another time.
There's mold in the
Come on.
lines.
Won't you take a few seconds for a fan? David locks eyes with Rick, but doesn't look at the drunk brute at his side. I appreciate the invitation, but I'm kind of going through a rough patch. That's why I'm alone. So please. The drunken fan jabs him in the shoulder. I gotta ask, what did that referee call you that upset you so much? You have shit in your ears? Get away! The fan jabs David again. David catches the finger, snaps it against the joint, and takes another sip of donkey piss as the agonized fan falls to his knees, screaming bloody murder.
Oh.
Rick quickly gestures to a giant of a man who escorts the drunken fan and his entourage out the door before all hell breaks loose. Then he shakes his head at David.
Donkey piss might be a good
One
name for
day
an
you're gonna
IPA.
pick a fight with the wrong guy. I
Maybe.
told him I wanted to be alone. There was probably a better way to tell him. Unless that was about something else. I broke his finger. Nothing more to make of it. Rick's eyebrows furrow.
Don't point at
Come
people.
to think of it, you never did tell me. Tell you what? What happened with the ref? David shrugs and shakes his head. He said the wrong thing at the wrong time, and I lost my shit. Doesn't matter. Yeah, I can see how much it doesn't matter. David sighs at the sarcasm, and he feels Rick's eyes on him as he takes a swig, then swallows it all down. Like I said, doesn't matter. Ah, secrets. What depths lie beneath the surface, Mr. King? What depths indeed. I've known you 16 years now, and you're still a closed book. You'll tell me. Eventually.
He's gonna open that book and come out of
Rick
it.
grabs his empty glass and walks away.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but donkey piss? Like... Hold on, I just want to go back up here to that. By the way, if the bar was called Uh-Oh's, that would be a great tie-in with, like, Ace's reality there. That would have been awesome. Okay. Sorry.
David feels his lips and tongue growing heavier and heavier with every pint. He continues to brag about his new white shirt, his new cologne, and his new friend Jasmine.
Yeah, Jasmine.
He tells Rick about how he met her at a fountain, where a famous photographer was taking her picture, and everyone stopped to spectate and take in her beauty. He searches Rick's face for signs of approval, but gets the sense that he's just nodding to be nice.
She's a 10, but you're
You
actually
should have
into
seen her.
dudes.
Every guy was staring at her. She was in this bikini, and the summer sun was blazing down on her.
Let's
Every
go.
guy was staring at her, and she was staring at me. You said that part a few times now. Did I? Yeah. Starting to sound more like convincing than bragging. David frowns and stares into space for a long moment. Then he puts his hands into his pocket and feels the hard tape holding an old note together. I ain't trying to convince you of anything. I didn't say you were trying to convince me. Who then? Well, that's the question, isn't it? I don't understand. What's the question? Stop talking like that. Dave, why don't you stop talking like that? You come in my pub talking about supermodels and exploits you could sell to a smutty magazine, and you're good at it too. And if I didn't know you, I'd buy it.
What?
David winces and turns away. So here you are talking about how happy you are while you're frowning and breaking fingers, and ready to take down the first one who talks to you wrong. And you're probably the only one getting in your own goddamn way. You don't jab people in the arm. You just don't do that.
David's an anti-vaxxer.
You can believe you're happy if you want to.
Confirmed,
Where
right
I'm
there.
standing, you're the most miserable bastard in Manchester, and I care too much about you to let you think you've got me fooled. There you go, trying to psychoanalyze me again. Probably going to link me to some obscure historical idiot nobody remembers that you read about in one of your dumb books. Rick shakes his head. There you go, making light of something serious when a friend just wants to know if you're okay. There you go, being melodramatic when a friend just wants a drink.
Let me drink your
Dave.
donkey piss.
I'm sure she's a nice girl, but you know what I say? Screw her. Don't go. Stand her up and do what you really want to do.
Whoa.
Stop talking out your ass. Rick leans closer to him. I'm serious, Dave. Serious as the note you keep in your pocket. You know, the one you read every now and then when you think no one's watching. David leans away from him.
Uh-oh.
Mind your fucking business. Touch a nerve.
Rick's
did I?
about to get more than one finger
David
broken.
drains the pint, wipes his mouth, and staggers off the stool. I'm fine! And he pushes his way through drunken patrons and the thick wooden entrance doors, losing his balance and stumbling into the cool, indifferent summer night.
Alright. Why would you stand up a supermodel? I'm a little confused on that. But as I said, she's a 10, but you're secretly into dudes. I guess that's the reasoning. Anyway, let's keep going.
David senses someone following him as he hobbles past the alley beside the pub.
Oh no.
He turns to see the disgruntled fan and his entourage of idiots. They yell and joke and bark curses at him. It's all a jumble of words to him, but he gets the tone and the general intention.
We
The
stand
fan approaches him with a crooked finger. You should be thankful people remember you at all. You pathetic excuse of a human.
Ooh.
The only reason they remember you is because you pissed your career away in a single flush.
David feels the blood boil up his neck.
This is
and
actually
doesn't
how
even
David gets into
realize he's
underground
unleashing
fighting.
a flurry of punches until it's too late. He stops to wipe the blood off his fist as an idiot tackles him into the dark alley. Another idiot charges him with a scream and smashes him into a brick wall. David kicks off the wall and pushes them both into a dumpster. He whirls to punch another idiot who instantly hits the ground with a thud. Several others attack him. He stands his ground and dishes out pain and soaks up punishment.
Yeah, let's
until
go.
they
Back
collapse.
alley brawl.
David looms over them, impressed by his strength, when suddenly someone kicks him in the back.
Oh.
He topples over as he feels an arm wrap around his neck, choking him like a boa constrictor. Through blurry vision, he watches the idiots take turns punching and kicking him in the gut and
Oh,
face.
looking good.
The boa releases David, and he collapses in the gutter with 2 tennis balls for eyes, a bleeding nose, and a tooth he feels slipping down his throat.
Ouch.
He crawls out of the alley and onto the sidewalk, where people walk by him without taking much
Get out of
notice.
here, you bum.
Then he turns on his back and stares at the stars glimmering beyond a broken streetlight, grateful he didn't puke. Then again, he was never one to puke. Not when he drinks. Not before a game. Not even before a family gathering.
What's a family gathering got to do with throwing up? Hey, Cousin Stanley brought the donkey piss. Come on over. Anyway.
David barely sees the legs of pedestrians walking around him. He hears them whispering, talking, laughing, and growing silent as they approach him. Once or twice he heard whispers about seeing if he needed help, but the whispers soon faded, and in the end, no one helped him. He didn't want help anyway. He stares at the blurring and fading stars and wonders what his life would have been like if he had just been like his parents. Then it dawns on him. He doesn't even know what that means. He doesn't know who they are. He knows aspects of them, the status, the facade, the bullshit, but not the real them, not the secrets and affairs and addictions. As David stares at the
relate to
darkness
that.
above, he hears a woman tell her husband they should really do something about the poor beaten man bleeding on the sidewalk. He sees their blurry shadows looming over him as they stare at him with concern. He hears a few more whispers, and then they move on with their hurried lives. Through the mist in his mind, he remembers a story of how someone died of a heart attack at a stadium because not one person stopped to see if the crumpled man on the ground clutching his phone for dear life was okay. One phone call would have saved his life.
Agreed.
Rick told him that story a while back. He can't remember when or why, but he had many useless stories he collected from friends and clients that he repurposed for small talk. David closes his eyes for a moment. He breathes deeply and takes in the floral notes of his cologne like soft petals drifting on the night breeze.
Should have gone out on that date, pal.
He's glad his nose still works, and that he's not having a heart attack, even though he feels as though someone kicked his heart out of his chest.
Ouch.
David feels someone lying down beside him. Someone told me you were out here enjoying the breeze. He recognizes Rick's voice, but doesn't respond. Nice night. I have never seen a night quite like this one before. David sighs. Go away. Please. Rick ignores him. Kinda hard on the back, but looking at the stars seems to balance things out. Please. Look at those clouds. There's a storm coming. Better enjoy it while we can. David turns to Rick and looks at him through puffy slits, but doesn't say anything. You know, coconuts kill more people than sharks.
What?
I looked it up because someone told me this story about a couple who had been together for years. The woman always wanted her husband to go into the water while on vacation, but he was terrified. He didn't want to be eaten by a shark.
Did he get brained by a
They
coconut?
go to the same place for 20 years, and he never goes in the water. Then for her 60th birthday, he decides he's going in. She's happy, and he's pumped. But as he walks to the beach,
God.
a coconut falls on his head, dies right there on the spot. You'd think that would have been what she remembered. She had been a customer for years, and she never once talked about the coconut. Someone else
The
did.
coconut.
She told me about all the other things, but not that. And she used to make me jealous. 'Cause I think people who know who they love are the luckiest people in the world. Mightier than the mightiest in a wasteland of broken hearts. David clears his throat.
I want to fact check this. By
Is
the way.
that story supposed to cheer me up? I'm not trying to cheer you up. I'm telling you that I'm jealous of you, Dave. And I'm not talking about Jasmine or the others. There you go, assuming things you don't really understand. I understand you. I understand love. And I know enough to know it's not something you squander, even if in the end there's a cosmic coconut waiting for all of us. David closes his eyes. Rick laughs softly. Her story would have made a pretty good movie, except for the coconut ending.
No, that would have been great.
That would probably have to change.
No, keep it.
David sighs heavily, and through a growing thickness in his throat, he whispers for Rick to leave him alone. To just leave him alone.
David and Rick sitting on the street. Conversate. Conversate. I couldn't think of anything that rhymed with street that involves talking. I don't know. Real quick, let me see if I can look up coconuts. I want to fact check this here. Coconuts kill more than sharks. Is that right? Snopes. Here we go. Here we go. Do falling coconuts kill more people than sharks each year? This factoid has been repeated so often it might as well be true. Research on which it is based is a press release for a travel agency with remarkably comprehensive health insurance coverage. So it's unproven. Claim more people die annually from falling coconuts than shark attacks? Unproven. Anyway. Snopes debunker. Get out of here. Interesting. That's a weird thing to try to prove, you know? Moving on here.
David opens his swollen eyes to find Rick staring at him. I had this regular who stopped coming to the pub a few years back.
My God.
Found out she was in jail. Imagine that. Jail. Murder.
This
Matter
guy
of
does
the
not
heart.
shut up.
She discovered her husband was in love with another woman, so she lured
Let's
him to their
go.
country home, drugged him with sleeping pills,
Alright, that's
boarded
a
up the
little...
doors and windows,
No.
and set it on fire
Oh,
while he slept.
okay. No, let's not go on that.
He
No.
woke up and tried to smash his way through the boards, but she was waiting for him with a hammer as he tried to climb through the busted and burning wood. Whack, whack, whack. She smashed his arms, hands, shoulder with the hammer until he could scarcely move. All that remained was a terrible mess of a man trying to squeeze through busted boards with thick black smoke pouring past him like molasses. She stands there watching him drip,
Jilted lover.
burning,
Understandable.
breathing, screaming, begging, and doesn't move until the police arrive.
Yeah, that's...
David turns away from Rick, but doesn't say anything.
Hell have no
Her
fury than
husband
a
cheated on her
woman
before,
scorned.
and it didn't bother her. But this time, well, this time, he was in love. That would make a good movie, too. Only she wouldn't kill him in the end, and he'd probably realize he was just going through a midlife crisis. I never met someone I'd kill or die for, and I sometimes wonder what that would feel like. If I could do something like that.
Rick's laying it on thick here for David.
David feels Rick's eyes on him. I think my longest relationship was 1 year. I was told my ego gets in the way and that I don't like compromise. And that's true. But what's also true is I haven't met anyone who made me want to compromise. David takes in the sounds of pedestrians walking past them.
David's
You
just
know,
like
one
this. I
client
don't want
once
to hear
told me that
this.
wolves either move in packs or alone or in a couple. Did you know that couples form such a strong bond that when one dies, the other dies seconds after? As though
Kinda
wolves
like with
can
our
just
previous
shut off
story.
life switch whenever they want. One soul following the other into the next world, if you believe in that kind of thing. David turns to face Rick. Please, I don't want to talk. One more story, then I'll leave you.
Oh my god.
It's a true story that happened 100 years ago, in a time when this kind of story wouldn't have even been told. I don't remember how they met, but when Richard and Will first laid eyes on one another, they fell in love. And they kept their love a secret, because back then, you could be hung for, well,
Oh god.
for not loving like the rest. David feels a sudden warmth rising up his neck. They had secret lives, but eventually they were caught. And while so many lied, trembled before the executioner, they refused to lie about what they had found in each other. With the noose around their necks, they were given another chance to repent. But they didn't. Instead of fear, there was only love. And Will grabs Richard's hand and kisses it as the executioner pulls the cart from beneath their feet.
That sounds like what the
David's
conservatives are
puffy
trying to
eyes
bring back.
drip with tears
They had their way.
as he sees the two lovers dangling from the gallows.
Or just Republicans
He
in
wants to
general.
say something, but feels an invisible noose tightening around his neck, choking him, preventing him from unburdening his heart. That would make a great movie. David's lips tremble. He wants to say so much, but the words just won't come out, and he feels like he's sinking deep into a world of mud.
Aww.
Then his face tightens and his whole body quivers as he tries to suppress the pain. Losing the battle, he erupts with gasps and broken words as he desperately tries to breathe. And Rick grabs his arm, supporting him, holding him, preventing him from sinking deeper and deeper into the wasteland where so many have been lost and forgotten.
Aw. Yeah, sorry. I thought she was in jail. Imagine that jail murder. Okay, I thought she was cheating on the husband with a woman. I got it backwards there. No, absolutely. That outburst from her was kind of justified. I don't know if I would go that far with like damn near killing him, but you know. I'm not in her shoes, her hypothetical shoes, so to speak, so... And yeah, with the way the world's going, I wouldn't be surprised if the fucking Supreme Court brings back, like, public hangings for people in, like, same-sex relationships, the way they're fucking just shitting on everything else. So... Or Christians, for that matter. If they fucking try to push that as like their moral agenda. Anyway, moving on from that.
What was it about him? The question stumps David. He takes a moment to gather himself. I couldn't say one thing. It was a bunch of little things that just made me feel good when I was around him. Everyone else makes me feel like I gotta be something I'm not. But not him. I never did believe the press release. My parents can't stand each other. They should have divorced years ago.
I definitely relate with that.
But they keep up the show and have their secret lives. So I guess that's normal. It works for some people. I miss him. I miss us. I remember meeting him like it was yesterday. Just being with him was enough to know. and I knew right away that he was special, and that he would somehow be an important part of my life. We met at music camp. I was
One day
7
at
and
band
didn't want
camp?
to go. Ironically, my mother forced me, and I guess in a way she's the reason we met. I couldn't play any instrument.
But someone
But
showed me this
Tristan-
rusty trombone.
Tristan was something else. I liked listening to him play the piano. First, my mother was happy. I had a music friend. Maybe I would end up a violinist. I guess she figured things out faster than I did. Because next thing I know, she forbids him from coming over.
That sounds like she's
She
Catholic.
gave some excuse about his family being of improper standing.
Definitely sounds like a Catholic.
Then the talks began. The responsibility
talk?
of being a king.
What?
She tells me about the image of our family and the strength of our name, and how I had pretty big shoes to fill. Sacrifices for the family and all that bullshit. But she never said exactly what she meant. She always danced around what she really wanted to say. David laughs. Tristan ended up going to the same secondary school as me. Funny how life works out. He used to write me notes, quotes, poetry, proverbs, smart aleck comments he knew would make me laugh. We got back together in secret and were together for years, till he began asking me to be introduced to my parents. Couldn't do it. I broke up with him. He broke up with me. Crazy fucking cycle. Last year, he wanted a real commitment. He was talking about a family and kids. I nearly brought myself to doing it, but I didn't. I broke it off and broke his heart. He didn't take it so well, got pissed, and actually came to my birthday party at the pub. He just shows up, and he gives me a kind of Great Gatsby toast, and he hesitates. And I know what he wants to do. I know what he wants to say. But in the end, he doesn't.
Like a song
Instead, he says what a good old pal I've been to him. And he makes a smart aleck joke about how I'm a ladies' man who will definitely never settle down. And with tears in his eyes, he finishes his toast with, "To the importance of being king." Smart ass. And everyone toasts to it. Even the old man. King laughs, then stops suddenly. Tristan staggers out with his pint and leaves an old note on the table. Something he had given me in an English class while the teacher was massacring one of his favorite writers with ridiculous interpretations. He called me a few days ago. Invited me to a party at the Gold Lantern Cafe. A going-away party. Tonight. He's leaving for New York. Some piano gig. He's leaving with some guy he just met. They hardly know each other a month, and he's following him to New York. How ridiculous is that? Rick says nothing, as they stare at the fading stars for a moment. Silent tears slip out of two narrow slits for eyes. David clears his throat and wipes the tears away with his arm. You ever feel like just stopping?
Yes.
Rick turns to David. I imagined you'd have to start before you could actually stop. Way I see it,
Also true.
you've always been this lion, taking down the bully, the asshole, the abuser. Ever since I've known you, I've admired you for that. You're great at clobbering the shit out of anything that gets in your way, except maybe yourself. I figure you could try building things, growing things, nurturing things. Things like you.
Nope, underground fighting.
Rick squeezes his arm. You're a lion, Dave. And as much as you're going to hate me saying this, you're a circus lion tethered and dressed up like a clown. You need to tear the rope and the costume with your own claws and teeth if you ever truly want to know what it's like to be you. You want to stop something? Stop jumping through hoops. Stop being the clown and just be the goddamn lion you were born to be. You're about to regret something for the rest of your life, and you know it. David stares into space. Rick squeezes his arm again. Way I see it, you owe someone a toast. Oh, you're an idiot if you think I'm just gonna walk over there and crash his party. You're an idiot if you don't run.
Just do what Rick says so he can pitch it to a movie producer. You know? And then ramble about how they should change the ending because it doesn't fit. Alright, let's see if they ruin Tristan's, It's Tristan, right? Yeah, let's go ahead.
David charges down the street and pushes his way inside the cafe. Scanning the room, he doesn't see Tristan or his party. He yells at a waitress from across the room, and to his horror, she tells him Tristan already left for the airport. Her
He's outta
words
here.
stun him like a slap in the face. He's too late, and his whole world is spinning out of control. He takes a moment to gather himself. Then he decides and rushes out into the street, screaming wildly for a taxi. A taxi pulls to the curb. The driver
Taxi,
looks
take
at
me
him,
to the airport, I'll beat you up.
then starts the meter and steps on the gas. Next thing David realizes, he's bolting down the highway, rehearsing what he's going to say to Tristan.
You got this.
He
You got this,
struggles with
David.
ideas and words, and feels nothing he comes up with is good enough. The taxi pulls up to the sliding glass doors of the airport, and David vaults out. The driver yells at him. He returns to pay him, and then rushes through the automated doors into a bustling open area. He quickly regards a monitor displaying flight departures. Sees
seems like
one
a
flight
this is like
leaving
a
for New York.
cliche.
Rushes through the terminal, but
Or TV trope.
security stops him in his tracks. Can't pass without a boarding pass. David stares at him, trying to catch his breath as he processes everything at once. He tries to explain his situation, but the brute won't budge, not even an inch.
Or a Mentos commercial.
David turns back and rushes to the check-in counter. He buys a business class ticket on the plane to New York. Then he runs back and passes through security. He runs faster and faster, and he's nearly there. He's going to do this. He's really going to do this. Suddenly, he smashes into an older man carting luggage who looks like his father with his salt and pepper hair and chiseled jaw. He tumbles over the ground as fear hits him like a fist, knocking the breath out of him for a moment. Just a moment. In the chaos, he notices Tristan's note on the ground. He grabs it, holds it, remembers. The man yells at David to be careful, but that's the last thing David wants to do right now, as he puts the note back into his pocket and clambers over a pile of luggage and charges away. Within moments, he sees the gate, sees Tristan, laughing with his partner.
Oh,
Happy.
ouch.
He freezes in his tracks.
Oh.
Guilt smashes down on him like a brick wall, pushing and squeezing his insides into something awful.
Now
At
who's
once,
going to be David's
everything
personal
begins to
pianist?
spin as he realizes he's going to be sick. David turns on his heels, rushes to the bathroom with a hand over his mouth, and blasts through a stall to purge his stomach. Then he hobbles out and washes gunk off his face, and feels like the most selfish person in the world. His busted and swollen face sags with the sudden realization that if he loves Tristan, if he truly loves Tristan, he will let him go. Rick got into his head, and he's drunk. That's all this is about. All he needs to do right now is be happy for Tristan. To be happy for him, and go home, and sleep this crazy night off.
Man. I can't help but feel for the big lunkhead. Poor David, man.
David walks away from Gate 72 with his head in a whirlwind.
Where's the
He
gate
knows
specific?
he isn't thinking straight, and that it's selfish to pull Tristan back into his mess. He made his bed, and now he has to fucking lie in it.
Also relatable.
David approaches the security gate, and his heart clenches like a vice. It's impossible to move. Something bigger than his doubt, his guilt and his fear won't allow him to take another step. His hand plunges into his pocket, and he turns the note over and over. Then, in a blazing flash, details of their struggle come back to him. How could he let him go? The one whose voice was the only peace he had ever known, whose laugh was the only joy he had ever experienced, whose every breath filled him with life, and whose every word challenged him to be a better man. How could he leave without even trying? Without showing him that he was, in the end, willing to do whatever it took for what they had. David realizes that if he doesn't seize this moment, he'll never know, and the regret alone would destroy him. Tristan doesn't just make him whole, he makes him real, and no one has ever had that effect on him. Suddenly, he comes alive, and turns, and fucking runs. I don't know what I'll say, but I'll say something, anything. I'll say whatever comes to mind. Maybe those 3 words from his favorite movie. Energy charges through David like a bolt of lightning, making him faster, stronger, and somewhat confident, even though he has no idea what he's going to say or do. He just runs, and his run becomes a stumbling sprint as he sees Tristan with his partner, about to board. His mouth opens in a silent scream as he stumbles and falls on his face. David? Is that you? Tristan grabs David's hand and helps him to his feet. David straightens himself and tries to look presentable despite the busted face.
Dude,
and the
if
mingled
Tristan
odor
breaks
of
David's
ale,
heart, Tristan's
gunk,
got to
and
be a killer
cologne.
in this game.
He smells like someone puked on a bed of flowers, and he knows it. But he forgets how he looks and smells as he tries to stop his hands from shaking. He takes a deep breath, exhales, and calms himself. Then he reaches out and holds Tristan's hands firmly. Words thicken like cement in his throat, and nothing clever or poetic comes to mind. He tries to remember the line from the movie without success. Tristan's partner steps forward, but Tristan gestures for him to be patient as he pulls David aside. What's wrong, David? What the hell happened to you?
Too much donkey
David wants
piss.
to tell Tristan he means the world to him. He wants to say, I love you. But instead, he says, no more bullshit.
Yeah, that's a good life motto.
Tristan mimes the words slowly, trying to understand. David says them in a whisper, again and again, as he desperately waits for Tristan to say something, anything. Tristan says nothing, but his eyes mist, and he suddenly looks happy and sad and very confused at the same time.
Aww. This is actually kind of a... I don't know, I'm kind of into this here. It's a very tropey setup here for David to just, go to his long-lost loved one and try to convince him to, be with him for... Like, it seems like something out of, like, Friends or whatever. Or, like, Frasier. Something like that. Let's see if Tristan says yes. Let's see if they get back together. Let's see. Pushes Tristan's partner to the curb.
In the rainy darkness of night,
Last page.
David staggers down a
Jeez, this
street
is
he
long.
doesn't recognize, drenched, cold, singing some half-remembered folk song. The last thing he expected was a fairy tale ending, and of course he understands Tristan needs time to think things through. How much time? Hopefully not much. Just enough for him to step off the plane and call him to say, "As you wish." Shit. Now he remembers. At exactly the wrong moment. David smirks. Doesn't matter. He's never felt so good, so free, so euphoric in his life. He lets the feeling flow past him like a gentle breeze, and gets the sense that he's been born again, or born for the first time. And that before this night he had merely existed as a cardboard cutout, with little self-awareness, except for the fear that had come to rule his life. His hope is that when Tristan's plane lands, he will receive a phone call asking him to be on the next plane out. If that is, he ever finds his wallet. Oh, no matter. If he can walk home from the airport, he can swim across the pond.
What?
He laughs to himself and figures his wallet will turn up somewhere. It always does. But what if he calls to say it's over? The thought catches him by surprise.
Bum, bum, bum.
That's probably what will happen. Truth is, love doesn't triumph, and our fears get the best of us, always.
It's true.
That's why fairy tales are written, to
Well.
escape the endless disappointments and heartaches of real life.
Okay.
Regardless of what you think, your love isn't strong enough, and when he calls, it's only to tell you it's over, for good, because he won't let you break his heart again. David drowns the thoughts by singing louder and louder. Then he stops suddenly when he sees a park he half recognizes. It resembles a park where he and Tristan used to sit on a bench and people watch all day.
People watch.
He enters the gates, and for a moment he hears Tristan's voice singing with him. He stops, looks around, but doesn't see anything through thick, slanting sheets of rain. David continues through slumbering bushes and sagging flowers under a thick canopy dripping and pit-pattering with rain. He walks ahead until he hears a soft whisper. No more bullshit. He turns to face Tristan. He rubs his puffy eyes and stares with disbelief. Tristan laughs. Only you could massacre a line like that. It can't be. It's impossible. David narrows his gaze on Tristan's silhouette. He must have somehow disembarked the plane. Or maybe he never boarded in the first place.
It's literally the finale to
He doesn't really
Friends.
understand what's happening, but he knows better than to overthink his luck. David runs to embrace Tristan, but just as soon as he touches him, he withers away like a dead flower.
Oh,
With a
well, maybe
gasp,
not.
David drops to his knees, hopelessly trying to catch the falling petals that melt in his hands and drip through his fingers into a gathering fog. He barely has time to register what's happening when he hears footsteps squelching in the mud and water all around him. He looks up slowly to see every single bully, abuser, and shithead he ever took down advancing on him. His gut reaction is to pinch himself, yet nothing happens when he does. With a deep sigh of resignation, David rises to his feet, lifts his chin, and throws himself into the fray. He tackles and swings and kicks until he's the last man standing, with slithering tendrils of black fog pulling him down into a world of darkness, untouched by the light of love.
Oh, man. What a bittersweet tale. I don't... play the cutscene and it's literally just gonna be like the finale of Friends playing. That'd be funny. Yeah, that was actually... You know, they did a pretty good job writing that. At least to me. I know they kind of just, all of a sudden, they were just like, surprise, David's gay now. But I think they wrote like a pretty tasteful, a bit sappy and a bit tropey backstory to his a long lost love. And well, you know, I'm cool with it. It's fine. Like I said. Let's see what we got here. What is that teacher wearing? What the hell? Oh my god. I have a bowl cut. Come on, David. Come on, kid David. Beat up the bowl cut kid. Beat him up. Beat him up. Beat up the bowl cut. Beat up the bowl. Oh. Oh, that must be Tristan. David's gonna freak out. He's gonna turn into the Incredible Hulk and just beat the shit out of him. Aww. He should have beat up the bully. He should have beat the shit out of that bully. So it just shows you the importance of the note. Okay. Okay. I mean, that was alright. That was alright. Obviously, it couldn't have had, like, too happy of an ending because, you know, David's in the fog, and if you paid attention to his prior appearance in the Tome, he's not that great of a guy. At least initially. But here you kind of feel, once again, empathetic towards him. So. Now last we have the House of Arkham, which, if this doesn't involve Batman, or like Bruce Wayne coming in the DBD, I will be disappointed. So we'll see what we have here. And there's only 5 notes here. So we're almost done with this.
Year 7. Day
Yeah,
189.
female announcer.
Morning.
Yeah, let's go.
Through the endless reaches of this dark dimension, we have made an astonishing discovery.
Ooh.
A tower like a lighthouse in a thick ocean of fog, calling out to us with music.
The
Several
observer
of us
tower?
recognize the melody and rush through the fog to find the tower abandoned by its past occupants.
Maybe not. Alright.
Year 7, day 189, afternoon. I still don't have a clear picture of who lived in this tower before.
Yes, it is the
Other
observer
than they
tower.
enjoyed golf and whiskey and kept extensive journals of people trapped in this dimension.
So who's trying to observe the observer?
Year 7, day 189, night. Some are calling our temporary home Chateau Arkham. Others are calling it the Arkham Hotel.
No.
And the
don't call
scriptwriter James Rich insists on calling it the House of Arkham, as it reminds him of a dime comic he once read based on a story by Lovecraft. We cleared the rooms, and I took possession of the study, where I found vinyl
Hey,
records
that's not your
and
stuff,
cassettes
ma'am.
with stories and journals read by the previous occupant. The Chateau, my preferred name, has
Alright.
items and technology from other worlds that are quite difficult to understand. There is one contraption in the basement completely on the fritz. It emanates blue energy,
The Orus.
and it seems to be manifesting memories from the atmosphere. I've ordered the basement off limits until we know more.
Well, who are you, lady?
Year 7, day 189. Postscript. A few of us read stories and drank a little whiskey before retiring to bed. Good stuff. Helps take the edge off.
James Rich. Journal of a moving picture,
Oh my god.
of dreams and madness.
They couldn't even fit it on
I
the
have
thing for some
attempted
reason.
to prepare a quick outline of what this story will be, and I'm starting to sense I will need to disregard the formula for the previous pictures I've written and attempt something new.
Hint, hint, modern day movie
The
producers.
truth is, I can't make sense of any of it.
Oh.
It's like living in a world of boundless imagination where everything and anything can happen.
Kind of like reality.
That is to say, being led to this tower feels as impossible as all the faces and residual memories we've been seeing in the endless fog that seems to imprison and torment us. You can bet your last dollar if you walk in this fog long enough, you'll bump into Lovecraft in a straitjacket, convulsing on the ground, dreaming up all this impossible horror.
And probably shouting
And that
something
all
racist
that
at
I
you.
am and all that I'll ever be is just a figment of his madness. It's a strange thought. I've mentioned the idea to several others, and they agree this tower does have the feel of a house or hotel you would find in his fictional town of Arkham. Several in the group began calling the tower the Arkham Inn, but I still maintain the more fitting name is House of Arkham.
So it's just a wandering group of people stumbling upon the Observer's tower, which is what it is, and they're just like, yeah, we live here now. No explanation of what happened to the Observer, which maybe the cutscene will reveal a little bit more of. But why the importance of what, like, they're stressing on, like, the importance of the name of the tower. Like, I don't, who gives a fuck? I just want the Observer in the game. I want him to be a reward. I want a reward from completing all of these tomes, and judging from the pending level rework and everything, I'm probably overshooting my hopes and dreams on that, because the perk charms are probably the most low budget thing they've done in a while to this game. And I already have it on YouTube, the full stream of the PTB with the hook charms and things like that, which if you haven't seen, check out. Yeah, I just want something. If not the Observer, I just want something from completing all of these. I mean, the readings and the lore is a nice little treat, but like, I want something physical that I can mess around with. Alright, let's see what we got here. Oh, it is the Observer. He's turning into the Wolfman. And the one, I think, what was it, Tome 7, Tome 8? One of those where he, Auric shifts into the tower from a different time and he finds himself dead in the chair. It's kind of close to what it was right there, I guess. I don't know. I like the Cthulhu-looking monsters greeting him a happy birthday. That's kind of funny. I wonder if that is inspired from how drunk he was and those were actual people. Like, hey, happy birthday! Or if they actually were, like, Cthulhu dudes just being like, happy birthday, or whatever. The plot thickens, so to speak. Man, they're really milking it, man. Like I said, another killer log where they make you feel empathetic with the twins. That one's probably the best one. Followed by David, second best one, and then Hey, what should we call this tower? House of Arkham? Arkham Inn? The Chateau? Chateau is probably the way to go. That's the third best one, in my opinion. And with that, we'll see you in the next tome on whenever that may be. Hopefully in the... I'm guessing it will start up probably in August. Maybe late August, early September. And that's probably when you'll see, if I had to guess, the second Resident Evil chapter, Project W. Presumably adding Wesker to the game. Keep your eyes and ears peeled on that. Check out all the other ones on all the other tomes. I definitely need to catch up on, especially the Hattie stuff from prior tomes and things like that. But yeah, catch up on that here on the YouTube. Here on Twitch in the moment, we'll get underway here with some matches and things like that since we've gone through that. But until next time, keep your head up, and I'll see you hopefully in the fog.